Hey everybody, welcome to the Saturday, November 16th Tinderbox meetup. Got me, Michael Becker, and the gang. Mr. Bernstein is out and about traveling. Someone's got their computer on in the background, so if we can maybe go on or their TV or something, if they can go on mute or turn down the volume, that'd be great. So it's not in the background of a recording the whole time. Um, so, welcome to the meetup. We don't really typically what we do in these meetups is we go around the room. We have new people introduce themselves, which today we don't have anyone new. We then talk about what we're working on Tinderbox with our projects and any themes. We don't have a theme today either, so we're just going to kind of go around the room and spend the next 90 minutes just talking about tools for thought in Tinderbox. And I'm sure we will have a rousing conversation because several items in the forum have actually come up. So. We can always fill the space. There's no question about that. So let's just jump in. I can pick on Paul Christie immediately, in that he emailed me not late-ish, but last night saying, "How do I do this?" And I had a solution with him in about 10 minutes. So, Paul, you wanna give us an update on your project?
Sure. I was having an interesting project. I had to get out about a 20-page document yesterday to a group of board members, and all the data was either in Obsidian or emails or in a Tinderbox structure. And I thought, why am I struggling with a Word document to send to people and create a PDF from when I have everything I need in Tinderbox? So I created the outline, worked and learned a lot on the fly about export code and export actions to kind of format the document that I needed. The one missing piece was I had two PDFs, single page PDFs that I needed to attach to it, and I thought, do I just send them out in the email? Can I make them part of the stream of export in Tinderbox? And Michael showed me how to bring in an outside file from a Finder directory, and I did that, and I created the document, and worked perfectly.
Now, what I showed you, though, showed you how to get the image of that file. Did you
Right.
actually get the link? Did you figure out how to get the link to that file, or what was
No,
your
all I
intention there?
all I did, because I had a 9 o'clock deadline. As usually happens, you cut short all that you want to do. I just took the image of the PDF and threw that out there. Fortunately, they were both one-page documents. I don't think a multi-page would have worked easily, but that got attached to the right appendix file, and I think nobody's the wiser.
Got it. Now, if you want, I will. And again, why don't I pull up my document so we're not sharing your private stuff? And I'll show you the solution we had. So, and I do have an idea for how you can do the other thing, and we'll explain what the thing is in a minute. Where is it? I got to open it here.
I'll just explain.
It's
And while Michael's opening that up, I
got
know
it.
I chimed in on the thread that Paul and one or two other looked at about sorting out names. My point about the complications wasn't to imply the original wasn't wrong. It was merely to reflect that unless it's something fairly close to you and you have sort of close control, that it sort of turns out there's a choice of doing, in a sense, what you've been doing, which is, in a sense, utilitarian and gets you there. Um, it's pretty good until you start getting an international caucus, at which point the whole thing tends to fall apart because that's how humans roll. It's no fault of the code. It's just that actually it turns out the conventions turn out to be really, really difficult for the edge cases.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So go ahead. So let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and share. Oh, I got my screen shared. So I just mocked up a quick little file. It says report. And so you've got a couple items here. Now there's a couple ways you could do that. One is he had told me, and again, this is where specifying your problem is really important. So anytime you're posting to the community, Tinderbox community, you kind of say, I'm wanting to do this, right? Don't worry about the how. Talk about what you want. So what he said is I wanted to be able to add a image and a PDF file to the end of the report. So one way to do that is to simply hard code do an image tag, hard code the path to that image on your hard drive, and you get the image. And so this is a picture of my fivefold path to digital sovereignty. Similarly, because PDFs come with an embedded image in them, if you do that to a PDF, you end up getting the, you know what? I deleted that PDF off my hard drive because I didn't need it. That's why it's not there. So let me get it out of the trash and put it back. Put back. Okay, so now it's back. And there you go. So you get the first page image of the PDF. Now, Paul, what I was thinking is what you could do is if you wanted to make this actually an actual document. Let me see. Let's test this in real time and see if it works. I'm going to go ahead to my Tinderbox course that I'm teaching, and I'm going to randomly grab a file out of it. Let's see. Let's grab the week 2 Hello World document. Just so you can see what I'm doing. I've got my Tinderbox course. I'm going to grab the Hello World document here, go down to the path, copy its path. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to right mouse click and copy the Google link. So I've got services activated. So I'll copy the Google post link. And I think if we do this, ahref equals, and we got to make sure our smart quotes are off, which they are. Shoot. Now okay. See how that, so by the way, see how that link just turned smart for other people that need to know this. You've also got a concept called smart links. So if you don't want links to automatically get linked by Tinderbox, you can turn off smart links, and then that will keep them from getting turned on, which honestly is very important because if you're writing in Markdown and the RDF has the RTDF, what's the right terminology? If the link is live, RFTD. If the link is live,
RTFD.
RTFD. If the link is live more often than not in Markdown, your Markdown. So the way you write a link in Markdown is you go like this, and the URL in here. If you're writing in Markdown often, and if this link is actually live, more often than not, the Markdown link actually breaks. It doesn't actually work. So you don't want to do that. So if we do this, I suspect this will work. So if we wrap the PDF image around the URL that's hosted, say, up on a Google Drive, and that didn't work. Let's see.
You're missing a caret up front.
Yeah, where am I? ahref equals blah, 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 blah. I am missing a caret. Where am I? No, here. There it is. Where do you see the caret I'm missing?
Well, you start the A and you don't have to. Maybe I'm just missing the syntax.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I'm missing the image. There you go. No, I want to wrap the image in a URL, and I should be able to. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay, so I basically wrap this image in a URL. So when I click on it, it worked there for a second. There you go. It actually would take me to the Google Drive, and since I'm not logged in, I wouldn't get it. So if you were to actually publish this document out as a Word doc, as your Word document, then that would become actually a clickable image, and then that would drive someone to a Google Drive where they could actually download the larger file. And then what you could say is, you could say something like, click image to download. Yeah. Right. So if you did something like that, people would know to click the image, and then you could actually take this to make this even a little bit more. And go like this, just so people can have it both ways. And so now you could actually download the PDF that way too. So that's how I would approach that maybe in the future, Paul. If you had a longer document, just throw it on a Google Drive and do something like that. Or if you have your own web server or something.
Yep, and I got the job done and got everything the way I needed to. I realized, and this may be a common Tinderbox user or newbie user fault, realized that what I was trying to do was work really hard to make the preview of my Tinderbox document look perfect, and then select all that and paste it in another document like Word, and then make a PDF out of it, when actually, if I was smarter about it, I would just use the export view to get what I needed and export that. But I'm not there yet.
And so for people that are watching, you can just go like this and hit copy if you've got your template assigned to it. And then you can hit the export view and just copy the HTML and then paste that wherever you need to go. The other way to do that would be is you could export it out as an HTML file and then open it up in Word, or open it up and then print it to a PDF. So that's those are other ways to quickly get something out if you don't have the Pandoc type utilities to get something published. Mr. Anderson.
Just a quick one on that is, yeah, exactly. If you make a well-styled document in HTML, these days browsers are pretty good. Something that you can do that I don't propose we dive down the rabbit hole, but basically you can also write CSS that says if I'm going to print, do the following, and it can do things like widows and orphans. So if there's only a line left in this paragraph, move the paragraph to the next page. For those of us who started in HTML in the 90s, this seems wonderful and far-fetched, but it does actually work now. And in fact, if you want to see an example, if you pull down the ATBRF source document, in there is a sort of mechanism for printing out the whole document to HTML, and you can basically see how that works. So you can basically print that out and then print it to PDF. If you do that without some extra magic sauce, some of the internal links don't work. But you can get the idea. It'll give you. It's this thing. As I've learned along the way, it's one thing to be told this is possible. It's another to get to the point that no, I actually saw it happen, and I now believe it, and I now have the confidence to go try it for myself. But rest assured, if you want to go the HTML route, you can actually essentially make a very well-formed, styled HTML document and be reasonably sure that you'll get nice line breaks. Because in the early days, it used to be that it would the printing mechanism would just sort of cut off half a line if that's where it thought the end of the page was, which of course is not helpful to the human reader.
Right. Now, the other thing to think about too, and for like my course that I'm teaching for my Tinderbox 101 course, the other way to get stuff out is this way too. So I can go ahead and create different notes and lecture notes. Like this is the class. This is what we did so we talked about what we did last night or yesterday. And then if you're using the built-in email function within Tinderbox and you've got an email template, I can go like this and you can essentially just email it out as well. And that works out super well too. So that's something else to consider as a possible option. Okay. So that we talked about, let me get my notes ready. So we talked about getting stuff out and getting images. What else do we want to talk about today? I've got one from the backstage that we can bring up if we need to. Allow. Where's my vaults?
The backstage subject you alluded to actually also works well in terms of, I think, what you've just shown here, because often as you go forward, you learn how to do these things and you wrap them up into a much larger whole. But from the learning perspective, it's useful to sort of think of them. And he's not here, but I'm sure Bruce will understand. So if we do it at Bruce speed, in the sense, so let's just pick this one thing, understand that. The fact that I can do it in 64 other things at the same time is a matter of practice and leveraging out. But so useful. So, in a sense, you covered here this idea that's okay, so you can make something. And the building blocks of that, so you use a template to basically use HTML as the structure to make a styled document, and then you can do a number of things with it. You can look at it in preview, you can email it out, because styled email these days is essentially HTML under the hood. You can send it out to a web page and read that, or you could pass it in something like Pandoc and get it onward processed. But part of the building block in this is getting the template that you want, or the templates that you want to make the thing. And occasionally what that will lead to, and what was in my mind when I said the thing that's brought up in the backstage was to do with tables, an overlooked part is, okay, do I have the information in my document in a form that I can easily use in the output that I want. So that's another consideration, little atomic consideration you make. Lesson once learned is then easy to reapply next time you meet a slightly different problem.
Right. So let's talk about that. So in the backstage, do we have anything in chat here? Okay, there we go. So in the backstage, Art had asked that he wanted to be working in map view and to be able to see basically a table in while in map view. And the answer is you can actually do it, and you can do it very easily leveraging and using the poster functionality. So the poster functionality was designed to be able to pull in relatively complex JavaScript languages so that you could feed appropriate variables into a JavaScript to be able to then render that out as a poster in map view. But poster is that JavaScript and its associated template is nothing more than an HTML template. So you'll see here, I went ahead and created an HTML template, and I built a table based off of just 2 notes right here, and we can add a third if we want. But there's the primary note, like the parent, and then 2 children, test 1 and test 2. And I created 2 using attributes. I created 2 basically table data value sets. One is my number and one is my set. And I did it with 20 and hello, and 30 and goodbye. And then I built the table. And again, Tom Diaz and I, about 2 years ago, actually built a dynamic table where the number of rows and the number of cells of the table would actually dynamic. So if I added more attributes, so what we did is if I added more attributes if I added more attributes here, about 2 years ago, we built it so that the table would actually dynamically react and add new columns depending on the number of attributes. So that was actually a really cool thing, and we could play with that too if we're interested in expanding on this today. But let's just go ahead and demonstrate quickly what we did. So if you go in and I create a simple HTML table, say, okay, here's the action, and the action is saying, go grab the list of the children, create a variable string, populate the table class with its primary header row. Then I want you to create a table body, then start generating a row for each of the individual notes, row 1, row 2, and then close the table body, close the table, and then generate your HTML, and then interject a style sheet from as fed from an attribute in the selected note, and in this case CSS style. So what this is saying is grab the text of the note whose name is currently placed in CSS style, and then use that as the style sheet, and then display the table. So if we go ahead and then render that, you see we get a fancy table. And then if I go ahead and select a style sheet from the dropdown, we get different styles. And I actually have a question for you real quick, Mark Anderson, before I do this. I'll go here. I do shadowed rows, and I screwed something up. Let's fix this in a second. But I'll demonstrate this like card style, right? So you can see you can get different styles, and I'll show you where I screwed it up in a second. But the idea is, so I'm generating a table and viewing that table in preview from here. Now, if you look here, I told the poster template attribute to use the HTML page style. So if I now go to map view and I go find that note, here's that note. And so here in map view, that table is now rendering, that image is now rendering as a poster using the HTML page style sheet. So I think that's really cool, honestly, and very, very simple to do. And as we talked about, you can actually simply by adjusting the styles, change the way the table looks on the fly. So what I'd like to experiment with real quick, because I was just doing this, literally it took me 6 minutes prior to the call to set this up. So it's pretty quick and I'm not complete. One of the things I did is I asked ChatGPT and I said, can you get me 10 contemporary styles in CSS for tables? And it popped out a bunch of styles, and I just started copying and pasting them into Tinderbox. And that's how I got those different styles. So it took me all of 90 seconds to pull those in. So now I want to go through and debug them and see why some of them aren't showing up properly. So maybe we can go through that real quick. So for example, let me follow. And then the other thing too is I use the term of the caption attribute to actually get the name of the table showing up here. So this is, some caption for the table.
And
Right.
don't overlook the fact the caption itself is stylable inside Tinderbox. So if you wanted a different font, different color to that. So if you wanted less of a scripty type font,
how do we do that?
You can do that as well. So if you wanted,
how do we do that?
Sorry.
Oh, here it is. Here we
caption.
go.
Yeah.
So we go to caption, and we can say, let's make the size bigger. And yeah, there you go. Sweet. Let's make it dark.
If I recall, I think you can set I'm doing a double check. You can set the caption font, although it's interesting the control isn't on that page. Bear with me.
Oh, it's probably in quick stamps. Let's see. Caption. Yeah, right here. So caption alignment, caption color, caption font.
So you could set that to say whatever, or set it something like Helvetica. It'll look. You'll see a different. Okay. Yep.
There you go.
So there you go. Yep.
Sweet. So that's super fun. I just think that's really, really fun. I know I'm kind of a geek, but
no, I think,
cool.
and I think it was reflected by. I know Mark's traveling at the moment, but his comment, on your solution in the backstage. I mean, I think in a sense this speaks to what he was thinking about when he put the posters in, inspired by some work at on the product called Dash at Brown. EDU in a sense. So the web gives us a lot of functionality basically for free in this. So by enabling Tinderbox to show you a web page, even one you created in the app, you can do a lot. The reason being that to make a widget that made a table, in a sort of wizard type form, all that's hidden behind the screen, and then someone comes on it, that's fine, but actually what I really wanted is I want a different sort of table with all this, and then it's a do-over for the code. So the nice thing here is, although for us as the user we have to do a little bit of work, but that's work that if you can't find an answer here in the community, because it's web stuff, you can easily find online, how to make a table this size, or I don't understand this bit of CSS. And then you can just put it into essentially an area of your map, which is the face of a note that you have in the map. And you've got some quite powerful display things. And to go back to Art's original question, I didn't know if Art might be here today. You can basically look at a number of different, be they tables. There's nothing to stop you having a chart or basically whatever you want, anything you can render via an HTML page, you can put onto that map.
Right. Mr. Paul Christie, you got a question. Then I want to answer my question before I forget.
Paul, well, yeah, I'm about 10 steps behind you, but this is really interesting, and I've been interested in learning how to do this, but it went by so fast that I'm not sure what happened. You started out with a note, and
look, nothing up my sleeves.
Right. And the way you got to the map poster version of that table was merely by adding a poster template attribute and giving it the same name as your HTML export document.
So, yeah. Okay. Couple things there to clarify. I'm not adding a poster template attribute, just so everybody knows. Every note has every attribute. I'm just happy to display it in the displayed attributes for convenience sake, because I could easily have used the poster. I could have easily used the quick stamp to go populate that attribute value. So you don't need to see the attribute to be able to populate its value. And all I did is specify what template I want that to use. So let me show you another example. Let's say we go up here and I'll say HTML2. And all I want this template to do is display, actually, let me do this. Let's call this one HTML2 because I want to populate the standard HTML page. Go up to File, Template HTML. So we've got the standard HTML template that is used. Oh no, I did the prototype. Sorry, I shouldn't do that. Templates. Let's call this one HTML2 page. And let's add the standard one back in. So I'm just going to reconfigure this so that it is, and I don't need children. Let me undo that real quick. Template, HTML. There we go. Okay, so the standard HTML template's this, and I've got now this one HTML template too, and I'll step through it really quick. But if I'm just using the standard HTML template, and I go to and I want to render this note in using the standard HTML template, I render it, and this is how we use export. This is how we use preview using the standard template. If I want to switch the template, I just say HTML page 2, and now I'm getting the template that I use to produce tables. Now, the ability then to render that, so this is, and so if you're looking at the note, and this is maybe something people aren't familiar with that much. So you've got HTML export template, and you have email templates. And you now, so there's basically 3 ways of rendering templates in Tinderbox. You've got the export template, which is used for preview and exporting a file. You've got the email template, which is the template that's used to be emailing out of Tinderbox. And you have the poster template, which is the template that's being used to render that note's view as a poster in map view. And so all I did was I went here and I said, so now I'm going to change this to, what do we give it a name? HTML page 2. So now, so think about this. So I've got HTML export template is going to be HTML page. So I'm previewing it this way. When I'm in map view, I'm going to actually see it in map view. Actually, this will be a good little demo here. Come on. Why won't it give me map view? There we go.
Because you haven't selected.
Oh, I'm on the wrong tab. There we go.
Yeah.
So look at this. So in map view, I'm viewing it as a poster, but in preview, I'm viewing it as a linear document. So that's something very cool that Tinderbox enables you to do. So imagine if Art was doing his research and he's got this table that's summarizing all of the attribute values related to this document, but over here he's got the narrative that he's writing about that document or about that table. Right. And then I don't know, I have no idea if this is going to work, but let's see if it does. I don't think it will. But if I go here, no, it won't. So I was hoping that if I had multiple documents selected at once and I was in map view, I would actually get that multiple document view, but apparently we don't. That might be a future request to ask later, because if you could do that, imagine you could be looking at the table and then writing and then editing the actual children simultaneously. So that might be a backstage request, because that would be wickedly cool if we could do something like that.
I mean, at that stage of work, a thing to bear in mind is something I actually responded to a thread as it happened on backstage. But saying you do also want to start thinking about right. So you've imagined your table. So one part of it is, do I know how to make a table? And whether you use an HTML table or a box full of floated divs or whatever, there are all sorts of ways of making something that looks like a table in HTML. So you make that, and you can do that with sort of dummy text, and you can make it work, and you can make it style, and you get to the point. So, okay, I know how to do that. Tick. That's one building block. The other part is, what is the data I'm going to? You know the data you want. The next question is, does that data exist actually as a attribute value, or do I need to go and call it by code? It doesn't matter which. You can do both, but you may find, if you have the choice, that you might think about, okay, if I'm going to do this sort of table, maybe I'll store the data in a different way because it just makes it easier. There's no right way, which is why I'm not going to say do it this way, because it's a combination of your task at hand, the data you have, and your personal style. The
Right.
point being that if you understand that the building blocks are, okay, you basically make an export template. Even if you never export anything from your document, you're still going to make what you would do to export a page, because preview is simply looking at the export without exporting anything. And then what the poster is doing is saying, well, show me this on this note icon on the map. Make the fill of this icon, what you see inside this icon, the output of the following export template. Whether or not it's the template used anywhere else in the document doesn't matter. So you might have, for instance, you might have the same data and 4 notes showing the same data with 4 different export templates.
Right.
So you can do what you like, but the building blocks are probably the most important thing to therefore master is the export template part, because you probably got the data. You may find once you built the table that you want to redo the data, but there's always an element of rinse and repeat. The second time is always easier. But so if you're unfamiliar with export and you want to do this, that's probably the first thing you want to master. And my suggestion is do the table, the sort of structural part first, then do the CSS. Don't try and do it all at once, because it just makes it harder to see where things have gone wrong. If the table is giving you, if you want a 3x3 table and you get one, good. If you get something that's different, then fix that before you worry about all the styling, because it generally just gives you extra problems to worry about that are harder to spot if it's your first time around the boy.
Yeah, and that actually makes me think of something else too, real quick, just for people that might not be. I'm going to grab this real quick. Go pull up my Excel. So if I opened up a Excel file, I pasted this in here like this. So let's say I had this in Excel and I copied this and I went to ChatGPT and said, can you give me the HTML for this? Oops, sorry. Can you give me the HTML? Right. So the idea is first create what you want in Excel, then ask ChatGPT to give you what that table should look like. And it's also giving me so this is ultimately the output we want. And then what you can do is you can copy this, pull it into Tinderbox, and let's just play and show you. We can play around with how to break that up. So then we can say, we'll call this chat GPT table just for fun. And we'll paste that in here. So we've got our chat GPT table, and we can start rendering this down. We can say, okay, well, this is the style that chat GPT wants us to use. So I'm going to copy that out. I'm going to say chat GPT style. I could have easily just left it in there too, but just for fun to show you how to do this. Go back here, and then we can, between the style tags, we now can say value text for that named document. All right, so that's going to render.
You're missing a close parentheses.
Yeah, so that's going to render. What that's going to do is it's going to pull the style sheet into this document. So when this renders, let's say, go get me the text of this note, which is the style sheet. So we stick it in there. And the reason why we do that is it just helps keep things smaller. So now we know, okay, this is the document output we want. So then let's think about, how do we ask Tinderbox to build that for us? And so what we can do is we can say, all right, we now need Tinderbox to methodically step through and build this for us. And so there's a couple things that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to call this one raw, because I'm now gonna mess and break apart the raw document into something else. So I now know in this template I need Tinderbox to perform action for us. Now we could do a function to do this, but because I want to do it in context, I'm going to do action code. So this is export code right here that says if you have the action export code in an export template, anything between these two brackets will be triggered as typically written action code. So then we want to say, okay, what do we need Tinderbox to do? We need Tinderbox. We don't need Tinderbox to render the head and table of the document, because that is static and there's nothing dynamic about it. And we don't need Tinderbox to render the body, because that's static and there's nothing dynamic about it. So if we keep down here, the only dynamic pieces that we need Tinderbox to build for us is that. So if we think about that, then let's say, okay, well, what do we want to do? Let's just put a placeholder in here and we'll say value v string, right? So what we want is we want Tinderbox to eventually replace this variable value v string with the generated string that we asked Tinderbox to produce for us there. So we know at some point we're going to need a variable called string v string. Right. So we know, okay, at some point I need to populate this variable called vstring. Not really sure yet how I'm going to do that. So let's think about how we would go about doing that. And again, there are a ton of different ways to do this, but for me, I find the easiest one is you then think about, what are we asking Tinderbox to do? And so with that in mind, this is a really kind of good first step when you're starting to get into this type of work, is you put 2 little forward slashes in. And you start documenting what you want Tinderbox to do. I want Tinderbox. I want this template to create a row from the values of each of the child notes to the selected note. Okay, so that immediately tells you, in other words, notes. In other words, I need a list of the child notes, and then I need to pull the needed values from those notes, and to create and to have Tinderbox generate my table. Okay, so based on that, we've now just figured out a couple things that we need to do. Yeah, and again, we've fixed my typos here. We know we need a list, so let's go here and say variable list vlist. Okay, and we know we need a string, and then eventually we know we're going to need a table. So let's think about the elements that we know that are static about the table. So and so let's say I'm going to now say at some point I'm going to need to have v string equal to, and let's think about the nature to way a table is constructed, because we know the elements of a table. The table, the kind of the fixed part of a table is its table tag that opens the table and the table tag that closes the table. So we know we need these components. So let's just break them apart step by step. So the first thing we need is we need the v string. And because I want to use eventually I'm going to want to style it with CSS, I'm going to wrap it, the string in with a single quote versus a double quote, because later we're going to add a double quote in here to be able to call the style. And we're going to put a plus here because we're going to be we want this to be additive. So at some point, I'm going to need Tinderbox to create an opening table and a closing table element to it. The other thing I know Tinderbox is going to need to do for me is I'm going to need to grab this head, and this head is going to be fixed. So I can paste that up here. and say, I also know that I'm going to need these elements. And I can leave in the space if I want to. Erwin, you're playing and drawing on my screen. Very cool. I don't know how you're doing that. It seems very geeky, but I like it. I think this will work if I do it this way, but I don't think. Right?
It's probably just worth also just think about the line breaks, the backslash ends you're going to have to put in. So one of the things we're doing here is we're mixing two things that will seem a bit alien at first. So inside the single quotes of the line that Michael's just typed, you could have a backslash T tab, or you could have a set of white spaces, and those will be emitted. They'll be exported to the content that is rendered in preview or exported. And my suggestion when doing this is to not worry about the HTML looking pretty. Get everything nesting correctly in the using the sort of method he's showing. And then you can go back and say, okay, I'll put some extra tabs here, because for whatever reason, I want the output to sort of look all nice.
I want it to be human readable for debugging purposes.
Exactly, but I wouldn't worry about it in your first stab in this, because it's just creating an overhead. And the main thing you need to remember is that if you're building the code line by line, as is being done here, so each vstring call, you want to put a backslash n at the end. So that means that when it's exported, there is a line break in the code.
And we'll demonstrate that.
All your HTML ends up on one line, which again is not the end of the world, but it wasn't quite what you intended.
Okay. And we'll demonstrate that later. And again, I don't have to have these spaces in here, but it's just easier to read it when you're doing that. And you'll see I'm essentially saying vstring plus equals the apostrophe is what starts the string, and then this apostrophe and that semicolon is what ends the string. So everything in all that white space in the middle doesn't matter. It's just easier for you to read it. So then we're saying, so now we've done, what we realize is we've now built our table, and we've built our table header, and we've built our table closing. We can now take this, and we know we need to do two more. We're going to grab our table bodies. Delete that one. And we've got our closing table body. So now we've got our table bodies. And so then what we've now done is that we're now walking ourselves through reconstructing this table. And then we need to say, okay, well, wait a minute. Now these are going to be dynamic, because each one of these are the individual notes. Note test 1, test 2, it'll be test 3, test 4, depending on however many notes you have. And there are 2 columns there. And if we have time,
just quickly, after the head, you've reopened the table, run the table body. 2 lines up. There you go.
Got it. Yep, thanks. All right. Okay, so now we need to do dynamics. And how do you do dynamic in Tinderbox? You parse a list. And so how do we tell Tinderbox what our list is going to be? Well, for the purposes of this program, let's make it really simple. Our list is going to equal collect children ID. Right? So we're going to say, generate me a list, and I want my list to be the children of the selected note. In the context that we're going to be doing it, it will be this note. And when I render this, it's going to select these children and create a list of those children. So let's go back to our ChatGPT table. So now I have my list. And so then I'm now going to create an iterative loop. So we're going to say vlist.each we'll call a row, right? Because we're generating the row. So for each of the items in this list, we're going to be generating a row. And so since we know we need a row, and we know that each independent element is going to be this, we can do the same kind of methodical stepping through. And again, once you get comfortable doing HTML, this will become second nature. Like I don't even think about this anymore personally, but methodically stepping through it like this is going to be really helpful. And honestly, it just helps sometimes just not to make some mistakes. So I now know I need to have a opening table row for each of the items. And I know I need to have a closing table row for each of the items. So then what's the next thing I need? I'm going to need my table data. So, okay, we've deconstructed this. So I've completed a row. And now I need to have basically 3 table datas. And what are these table datas? The name of the note, one particular attribute value, and another particular attribute value. So let's go and put those in. And then barring time in today's class, we'll see if we our meetup, we'll see if we got a thing. All right. So now I know I'm going to need, what am I going to need here? I'm going to need a table plus some kind of Tinderbox value plus closing of the table. And we might as well throw the backslash n in there because it will make the more readable. So I now know I need that for each of the 3 rows that I want to generate. And then what do we want to have in here? Well, for this one, we want name, but we have to remember we're iterating against this dot each operator. So the name of what? The name of the note whose ID we're pulling from the list. So up here, we're asking Tinderbox, give us a list of all of the children notes and grab me the ID. So the value that's being passed to this operation is an ID number. And so I'm telling Tinderbox, grab me the name of the note whose ID is this that is currently in this operational process. Now we forgot what we called our attributes before. So my number and my set. So then we can go back and say, okay, I remember now. So now I need to take this same operation and go my number, my set. Okay. And we don't need this anymore. So now we've basically regenerated this table. Hey, Tinderbox, what do I want you to do? I want you to do this stuff. Grab a list of the children, create an empty string, start populating that empty string with the reconstruction of that table. Complete the table, close the operation, render me the HTML, and stick the string there. So let's see if that actually works.
N after your TRs.
Yeah, and let's demonstrate. Let's demonstrate them without it first, and then yeah, good point. But let's demonstrate it without it first. So if we go up here, and we're now going to render this table using export. And we're getting nothing. Okay, so which is not to be expected. But let's look here why we need the backslash n. So you see how we're not getting line breaks here? We'll figure out the nothing in just a second. We'll go back here, and if I put a backslash n there, and a backslash n there, and I'm sure it'll be an easy fix. But let's go here, and you'll see now if we go look at the export, we're getting those line breaks. So that's really nice. And then if you wanted to get some paste, spaces in here, which we can do in just a second. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And so you see the reason why our table's breaking, for some reason, these values aren't getting populated. I'm sure it's got to be a typo. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that is, but let's put these spaces in there first. By the way, I don't know why Tinderbox automatically inserts a period when you do 3 spaces. I don't know if you've ever seen that, Mark, but it's interesting. So a row, this is bar list. Oh, is that
I know what it is. It's an autocomplete. It's not 3 spaces, it's 2. If you're typing a message,
yeah,
if you type 2 spaces straight away, it assumes what you're trying to do is to put a full stop, period, a space to start a new sentence.
All right. Oh, okay, I got it. Well, we might be breaking. Let's see where we're breaking. So vlist, you're right. It's an autocomplete from the Mac. It has nothing to do with Tinderbox. Bar vlist equals vlist collect children. Okay. Well, here actually, this is a really good thing. Since we found it didn't work right out of the gate, we're saying, what's going wrong? So let's create a log note. We might as well methodically do this just to get the practice. So let's create a log note, and we'll say text equals log. And what do we want log to equal? Vlist. So let's make sure we're getting the list we expect. And again, this has been a little pedantic for a simple project like this, but it's simple is relative. I've done this a gazillion times, whereas if this is brand new to you, it might not be Careful. So we type in ID here. So if you add in the columns, so if you go up to the view, use columns, you get the columns. And so what I'm testing right now is vlist equals collect children ID. And I want to see that the vlist in log is actually going to be the same as these two. So my expectation is the output into the log is going to be a list that shows 601 and 609 as two notes. So if we do that and render it, you'll see because I went as soon as, oh, and look, it's working now. So as soon as I rendered it, I got the two notes. And if we go here, you'll see 601, 609, 601, 609. So apparently I must have fixed a typo somewhere in the process of messing around with that. Oh, you know what it was? I did fix a typo. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but I had done it unconsciously. That was a semicolon. Right? I didn't realize I did it without even thinking I did it and going back. So that was a semicolon, and that's why it broke. So if I go back here and I re-render the list, nothing's coming out. And let's go back here. So when we're doing stepping that through, you're saying, and this is and Mark Anderson had to spend like 6 months to get me to realize this way back in the day. I call him up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, my time. I'm like, my God, why is this not working? And he's like, well, look at the preview, and often too, look at export, see what you're getting. And it's very clear we're not getting the values that we expect. Look at the and so then if you look at the log, well, what Tinderbox is getting is vlist. So that should instantly tell you that your variable is not being properly defined, right? Because if you go back into your template, you're telling Tinderbox to render a variable, and yet it's not up here. You're telling Tinderbox to render me the value of a variable to which it's not being defined. And so you instantly know that the row that you're using to define your variable has something wrong with it. And what clearly is wrong with it now is that semicolon should be a colon. And so now that we actually fix that, we get our table and the log actually renders properly. So this is a really nice exercise of methodically stepping through making a table of this nature. And we've now gone from pulling. And so let's talk about what we just did. We had created the exact table we wanted in Excel. We then went to ChatGPT and said, hey, ChatGPT, give me the HTML that I would need to be able to render this table. And then we methodically deconstructed that table so that we could reproduce it in Tinderbox. And there you go. Now, if we've got time, and we do, there's two things I'd like to do. I have three things that I'd like to do with this, if you guys don't mind. One is I want to ask Mark Anderson a question real quick. Two, I want to see if I can fix the style sheets for the original work we were doing for Mark art. And then the third one I want to do, and this is going to take some time to think it through, but let's do that together. I want to go back to what Tom Diaz and I did like 2 years ago, and let's say I want to have Tinderbox dynamically create the number of rows based on the number of attributes that are actually displayed in a note. So that if I go ahead and add a new attribute in here, Tinderbox will automatically add new columns. Or excuse me, Tinderbox will add new add new columns, new table data elements for that. So I think that would be fun to try.
I mean, the building block of the last one's fairly easy, because if you think about it, displayed attributes is itself an attribute called displayed attributes. So
you can do a count.
That the contents of $displayed attributes is a list whose values are the names, not with the dollar sign, but the actual names of the attributes. So this is kind of cool, because not only can you use the names now as the headings, if that's what you want, but you can also then construct a reference from those on the fly.
Right.
And
we also get a count. How many rows do we need to have? The number of items that are in displayed attributes. So that'll be super fun. So let's get to doing that. But here's what I wanted to ask first. First question is, Mark, you see how? Let's see. I'm clicking here, and let's say I now want to use the card style. Is there a way? And the way Tinderbox currently runs, it's additive when you make these selections. Is there a way or a setting where I could have it not do that?
What is CSS style? Have you got it set to a list or a set?
Oh, good question. Or I make it a string.
Oh, sorry. No, what you want is you want to have
It's a
the.
set.
Oh, fine. The thing to do actually is take the list of things, make them the suggested values. No, that still doesn't work. All right. So here's the thing: if you make it you want to make it a string, but you want to make the suggested values all that. So take the list that you've got of all the values, make those the suggested values of a string attribute, and then whenever you suggest some, whenever you pick a new item, you overwrite the existing value.
Correct. Now here's the question though. Because I might be dynamically adding new notes, I want that suggested value list to be dynamically generated. So is there action
Yes.
code? Okay,
Yeah.
so let's do
right.
that.
So the building blocks. He said, I'm doing this now off the top of my head. Is that so? The building blocks of this is so the names we want are the names of the children of CSS folder. So we can
Correct.
use collect to get those names. We can then use
So
the
so let's start with a stamp and let's use our newly found school populate suggested values
yeah.
of CSS style, right?
Yep.
And I want to get the names. I want to populate the suggested values of CSS style with the
Yep.
names of the children of the CSS folder. All right, that's what we want to do. So how do we do that?
Okay, so the first thing is you're going to make yourself well, you might as well store it in a variable. Now we have variables, let's use one. So we're going to make a variable that is a set, which means that we don't have to worry about duplicates. It will be auto-sorted A through Z, but I think we're cool with that. So, and it's going to equal collect children, comma, $name. Yep. Okay. So now we've got the names of all those things. Now we want attributes, lowercase. We're going to use the operator attribute. And I'm trying to remember the syntax. Basically, we say the name of the attribute we want to do, which is CSS style, without a dollar sign, because we're talking about the name of it, we're not referring to it. I think that goes in quotes. It probably doesn't need to, but
might as well.
And then close the parenthesis, and we want the key because it's a dictionary we're setting. We're basically going to set the value of square brackets, no dot, and then it's quotes suggested, I think, with a lowercase s.
Oh.
I think the keys. This is where it's difficult. And broadly, if it's a textual thing, unless you're generally, if you're using a bit of text and it's a literal name, if in doubt, put quotes around it. Why this comes about was in the very earliest days. It was intended that you just write action code, a bit like AppleScript. And you just write what you mean to say, and it all just works. And we all know how well that worked with AppleScript. It's a cool idea, but it turns out our spoken language is just much more complex than that. So if we put anything in quotes, single or double, we're saying to Tinderbox, I'm passing you a literal string. In other words, this is what it says it is. Whereas if I put where it says suggested, if I put children, that might be I'm trying to say I want the children designator, i.e. go and find me all the children of this thing. It wouldn't be appropriate as a key here, but I'm just making the point. So anyway, that should be fine. Now we want suggested equals vset.
Okay. So if we apply the stamp to this.
Yep. We should find, and then go and look at the.
There you go.
There you go. Now, wait, stop.
Yeah, not going anywhere.
You need to change the. That's isn't it? That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But what you need to do is you need to change the type to string.
String. Okay.
Now when you go someone, you change the
Oh, yeah, I don't need that anymore. Oh, and then I need to, oh, and I had in this folder, I had a action code that was doing that. So I get rid of that because I don't want that string populating with the children. So now if I go up here and I delete those, I now have a suggested list and it overwrites. Sweet.
Okay, so just to circle back around.
Okay, no, real quick though, real quick though, to stop one thing. But what I do want to now do is I want to take this and now make this the edict of the note so that anytime I add a new style, it's going to automatically get added to the suggested list.
So I think the bit that can fly the sort of the sleight of hand that had to go on is a sense of right. So list string, what's going on? So you only ever want to store one value, so the attribute needs to be a string type. But you want a list of potential values. And how we can do that is the suggested values list. So the suggested values list basically allows the pop-up menu. How it started was the idea that pop-up menu could suggest values to you that weren't actually yet used. So that the pop-up value, the pop-up value list will always show you the values already used in any note in the whole document. So if you had a different document using a different CSS style, you might, and you know, that wasn't in the suggested list, you'd see an extra value. But in the way we're using it here, if we only ever pick something from the list, then you can't color outside the lines, because the edict on that we've just made, that's now on the container CSS folder, is constantly, well, not constantly, but every so often repopulating the suggested list for the CSS style attribute.
And let's demonstrate that. If we go to test two. So we've just now added that one, and by selecting this, it'll automatically trigger the edict in the background. So now if we go back up here, we will see test two. And there was much rejoicing. That's really cool.
And it's so blissfully simple. You know, once you grok the constituent parts, it's really very simple.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's go to number two of our problem for the new problem set we have for today. Number two was when I'm now selecting with these, I don't feel like, and I could be wrong, but so that's card style. That doesn't seem right. Oh, because we're doing the chat. So I got to go back to my HTML. Page 2 is the output template we want. So we've got card style. So we're getting card style. So grading style. So I think I don't know what the style is supposed to look like because, but if we go look at gradient style, so table style and table style head. So I think, and this, I think what I've done wrong here, Mark, is where is this supposed to go? So table style head should go in the T head, correct?
Well, if I presume that table style TH is, well, no, actually inside T head, instead of having, you can have a TD element, but you can have a TH element as well, which indicates.
Got it. Yeah. That's it.
And you've got three of those, so yeah. See. And you still got one in the middle of the line before item 1. You got a TH, so that's
okay. So that could be it. So let's see. All right. Well, yeah. Well, at least we're immediately getting a change. Now our head's bold.
Yeah.
So that did make a change, which is good. But I was expecting some kind of gradient, but maybe I'm.
Well, two things to bear in mind is, as people will say, ChatGPT gets you about 90% of the way there. So it will rarely give you the answer, The problem is if you don't know what you're doing, it probably won't give you an answer at all. It'll give you a wrong. It'll give you something that's close to what you want, but no indication as to fix
So
it.
let's change the head. Let's change
It's
the head to red just
sometimes
so we can
not
see the
helpful.
difference. And then the table style. Yes. Okay. So I guess this is working. So that's red. Yeah. All right. So that's working. So then if we go here, shadowed rows. Okay. So we're not getting shadowed rows. So let's see why. And I think that's probably because we don't have
Right. So that you need to have
table body needs table starting. That's okay. Good. There we go. Go ahead. Keep talking while I'm thinking.
no,
I think I
well,
need to
so
do this.
dot table style means it's a class.
Right.
So
So this
what
is
that's saying is anything that's
oh
under an
here.
element that's style with table, whatever it was, it changed. Right, no, hold on a second. What you've written there is you've applied two classes, which is allowed, to a class to one item. That's
Oh, I'm
slightly
not.
different. That's slightly different than what the CSS, the way it's written. The cascade really means something. So as you read along a line before the first curly bracket, it's
Yeah.
actually an inheritance chain. So it's
Yeah.
basically saying the thing if that you read, you can almost read it from right to left. So if this is inside that, then you
Right.
get.
Okay. And let's make this easier to read. One, two, three.
But I think that this reiterates my point about don't try unless you're quite expert with this stuff. Don't try and do the styling to start with.
Yes.
Get the HTML to work, and it may look ugly, but you've got the right information in the right sort of bit of screen. Then you can do all the sexy stuff with the CSS.
Yeah. Okay. So and again, I don't know what the CSS is supposed to output, so it might be outputting correctly, and I just haven't written it properly. But is it so? If I'm thinking here, we're on gradient shadowed rows. So tables. So I think this is where the shadow rows box is happening. So table style. I see. So this should just be T body
No,
and T row hover.
no, right. Just don't change the screen for a second. What that
Yeah.
row is saying is when you hover over a TR in T body that is within a presumably
Oh,
some
then do
table
this.
style.
Got
So
it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
I'm guessing that what it's assuming you'll do is
Is hover over this.
you're going to set the table to class table style because everything's going to be under the table.
All right. So table is class table
You've
style.
got class table style, and now if you go back to the CSS again, just
Should this be T body then?
it
There you
probably
go.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
because unless you've
Oh yeah.
defined something for it. So here's the thing to understand again. If this is for those of you who are a bit new to this, is that um, what you're
You're
doing
right. It doesn't matter.
what
Yeah.
you're doing with CSS is in its simplest form. You're saying something like, I want something like any TD element to have a red background. That's the simplest thing. It's a bit like doing a test in Tinderbox. Said I want dollar color to equal blue, and I can actually see that it's blue or it's not, and I can understand that. It's much more CSS is much more sophisticated because you can sort of say that well if I'm the second item in an odd row of a table I want my background to be blue or something. That's remarkably complicated, not at all easy to read at first instance. But if you go back to your point here, the bottom of this table style, so basically within the T body element, which is so that's the T body there is referring to specifically an element, i.e. the bit in angle brackets called T body. So for a table styled table style, which is the opening style at the top of the page, for within the body, i.e. T body, when you hover over a TR over a row, you should get a box shadow. That's what I read that to mean.
Got it.
So
And again, maybe because we're in preview and preview is not a browser. We're not. I would think this should be getting some kind of hovering or some kind of.
Okay. So if you wanted to debug that, the way I'd do that is I would actually export that as a page.
And that's removed.
Then I'd open it up in a browser. Then I'd open the browser inspector, because then you can actually see, as you move your cursor and sort of do things in the browser, you'll actually see the inspector telling you all the funky stuff that's going on with the CSS.
Okay.
I think I would repeat my point that it was a good experiment to do, but I wouldn't try and learn CSS by getting ChatGPT to write it.
Yeah. But again, it's fun to try, and it's not a bad way to experiment, right? So, but honestly, we did get a few kind of cool things out of this. So, like, let's try stripe design. Yeah. So there's a stripe design. Yeah. Coming from the CSS. So we know that works. Yeah.
Probably what you wanted to do, actually, and I'm inexpert at using all these sort of AI tools and things, but it's probably that classic thing. You wanted a stronger prompt, because what you wanted to do was say, show me a test file for each style. If you'd done that, then you would see where the styles were being applied. It's giving you the right. It's in fairness, in a sense, it's only giving you the right stuff. It just hasn't told you where it needs to be attached. And now I'm reminded this is why Bruce says he gets confused, because there are an awful lot of moving parts when the stuff is unfamiliar.
Again, my prompt is not great. All right, let's deal with that later, because we're not trying to learn AI. So so that works. So okay, so we've solved the being able to select an item. We've kind of walked through our issues with CSS. Now, let's say, and again, so we'll go up here to prototype. We'll call it P note.
And if you design your CSS, so they basically all use a consistent set of markers. So if you wanted, for whatever reason, let's just say there are 5. Let's say I've decided there are 5 different CSS styles I want, because maybe they're going to have. I'm using them for actual visual tailback, because they're an intimation that this one's up. It's this sort of analysis, and another style is that sort of analysis. As long as you use consistent sort of interrelated naming of classes to elements.
And just to be clear, what he's referring to is right here, this name here, T style. So as long as every style sheet had the same name,
you can either
swap back more.
Basically, a class can apply to multiple things on a page, or you can even do it. I think if I remember, you put a hash sign in front, or a pound sign in front of the name CSS thing style name, and that will link to an ID. So it will link to only one element on the page. You're far more likely to use classes than IDs, but just for completeness. But if you use consistency, so that your HTML design uses class names, and your 5 or 20 whatever CSS styles consistently use the same class names, but with different styling, then when you do the switch via the suggested value menu, which Michael's shown you, then you will have this sort of dynamic update, and then it gets to pay off.
Okay, now let's do the fun one. So what I did is, while you were talking, I copied our page 2. So we know page 2 works.
Yep.
So let's not mess with that anymore. And I copied it and created out a page 3. So now let's let in page 3, let's write in our note, and we want to say, and now when you're in a comment, we could do let's do the comment here. So in this action code, we want to say, I want to dynamically create. I want to dynamically learn how to spell. I want to dynamically create a table whose row count of displayed attributes. I want the names, the row headings, to be the displayed attribute names, just for the sake of easy. So that's what I want. That's what I want to do. Other than to learn how to spell.
And actually, it's quite simple. What the way it works is, where you've got your vlist each, where you iterate through all the children, you're going to have a nested list inside that. So first of all, you're going to say, give me the first item. And then you're going to immediately start another list saying, give me the first displayed item. So you're going to have a list that is the displayed attributes. And that's the second list. So you start the first row, then you iterate through all the displayed attributes. And so the inner list, the inner list is nested inside. So where you've got vlist equals X.
I just want to get the spelling right. Displayed. It is a capital S.
Yeah. I have a text expander for this. I use it so much and spell it so badly. I just have it wide up.
So if I do that, so I've got, and again, just to make it a little easier, this is the list displayed attributes.
Yep.
And then the other thing I want to be able to do, because I want to iterate, I think I want to do this. I want to number, and I want to v count equals vlist.count. Right, because that will tell us how many times we need to iterate through that list, or do we need that?
No, you don't need to. If you think about it,
because we're gonna iterate everything anyway. So
yeah,
right.
So right, you might need it. Right. So in the simple case that we've taken, because we're going to just say we're going to go soup to nuts, we're going to take all the displayed attributes. There'll be 2 to start with, and maybe 4 when we've finished. So we'll just keep going through. Where you need a bit more finesse is saying, well, actually, I don't want item 3, or for item 2, I want to use a different version of the actual attribute name. You can do all that sophistication later. But so basically, yep, there you go. So you want to, yeah, and you might as well call it Y for now. Yeah, and then you want to close that list out as well. At the bottom, that's fine. Okay, so now.
Okay.
No, sorry, my apologies. So the TR line goes above, outside the list.
Yeah. No, you're right. But this is
the close row goes outside the list, because all we're going to do is what we're trying to figure out is, well, how many
rows we need to create. Yeah.
So you want to put your closed row after that. Yep. Okay, super. Now, what you're going to do is for each is going to be TD is going to be
No, so what I know it's going to be Y dot. This is what it's going to be. It's going to be Y.0, Y.1, Y.2.
No, right? No, it's not. Okay. Well, you could do it that way, but actually, because you're iterating in each case. So the first thing is going to be name. The second one is going to be my number. What you actually do is you want an action. So you want, but this is where it can get confusing. Is that and there are some notes I've written on ATB Ref about this, but essentially what you're going to say is vstring equals. Right, inside, under each Y, action, you're going to call it action. No, go back. No, remove that blank line. Go back to what you had. Right, before the first double quote in the next line, after the equals, type action, open parentheses, and a closed parentheses before the semicolon at the end.
Oh.
So what you're saying, and then you're going to say you want well, in fact, move the dollar sign inside the previous. Move the dollar sign inside. No, you don't want X. You want the dollar sign. Remove dollar sign name X completely. Right, this is where getting too clever with a copy and paste just screws you up. So. Exactly. So this one line is going to do it for everything. So what it's got to do, it's got to do inside the first string. So where you've got quote TD quote, before the closing quote, put dollar sign, and then you're going to put in between the brackets you put Y. So what's going to happen is the string angle bracket TD close angle bracket dollar value of Y angle bracket / TD close angle bracket, will be read by the action operator and turned into what we want.
And so in this case,
what you tend to guess that you want to do is you want someone to say, I want to take Y and I want to glom a dollar sign on the front to make a reference, but that's not how you do it. The way you do it is like this, and then that should give you. So if you now render this, you should get your table.
And again,
so the next thing is
before we do it, what we're saying too is, because we know there's 3 items in this displayed attribute list, this is going to iterate 3 times, and that's why we're going to put the 3 rows.
Yeah, and because you've said,
and we did not. Oh no, because you know why we did not? Because of wrong template. Okay, and we're getting a bunch of trues.
Okay, so that's happening. That no, wrong. What did I tell you? Right? Yes, that's where you want to look at, because so what's you're supposed to look at the export. We discussed this. Always look at the export, because that's going to tell you. So where are those trues turning up? Right. So they're turning up. There's something going wrong inside our
here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going. It's the row that's generating the.
Yeah. So you go back to your template now.
Yeah, we should put a.
And just right. So we should
Should we log it? Let's look at what.
No, it's this problem of eval versus action that I every time I ask, I get an answer that's slightly different to the one I got before, and I document it, and then it turns out that it's wrong again. We know what we want to do. Basically, we want the value of $Y.
Right.
But you can't write that.
So should we should we create a variable that does an eval on $Y?
We could do that. All you need to do then is remove the action. So in that line, remove the opening bit of the action, remove the parentheses at the end, delete the dollar sign, and then before the Y, do eval, dollar sign in quotes, plus Y, close, parens. See if that works. Yeah. So there you go.
No, but we're not getting the right information. We're getting HTML page 3, page 2.
Well, hold on a second.
We're not getting the attribute names. Oh, and by the way, too, we don't have our third out. Just a minute, let me reset these. We should get. Let's put this one. Okay.
Okay. Right. Right. What you'll see.
And the header. By the way, our header is not getting dynamically created either. This header needs to be adding more header items because we have the 3 headers.
Right. Okay. So you do the same thing. It's the same process, because inside your
Oh, and do we need a new string variable?
But hold on a second. No, you don't. No, you don't want $Y. What you want is Y. In that row, you actually want Y.
Yeah.
So no, take the eval out. And you've got an extra plus sign in there. You've got too many plus signs.
Right.
Because what we actually want is the name of the attribute. So the header row needs to be the name of the attribute.
So should we test that real quick?
Yeah.
No.
No, what did you not do that you should have done there?
I didn't.
Go back to notes, select notes. Select notes.
No, no, just
no.
no. Here, no, right here, right here.
No,
right here, right here.
no. Go back to notes. Preview it again.
Yeah, I'm getting nothing.
Right. Okay.
I
So
something way up in the beginning.
sorry. The practice I'm trying to get you is always look at the export. The preview only tells you what didn't happen until it works. Always look at the export. That's showing you what the code's coming out. The preview is just the render of the code.
That's correct.
Well, another way to do this, to be honest, the way I would approach this is I wouldn't try and do this all at once. I wouldn't even bother with the data rows until I got the header row to work, because then I know that that's not where the problem lies. Yeah. When I got the header row to work, so in other words, I just take that out. It doesn't matter the table. It doesn't matter that the data looks slightly odd. The thing is, until you know it all works or you're quite expert at it, just nibble it off a bit at a time, because the approach is to have the as little ambiguities as you can.
I got it. We're not closing the head. We have no closing head.
Yeah, right. Okay. So what you want is copy the line T head. Just copy that. No, copy the whole line. Just copy the whole line.
Yeah.
Paste that in after that. Yep. And then delete everything inside after T head inside the element.
And
put a forward slash in front of T head to close, because you're closing it.
There you go.
And you want a /n at the end inside the string.
Yeah, I'll do it.
No. Go back. Right. You've now got a string that is, you've got v string there. But you've got to do that. Yeah, exactly. You've got to stop there. No, not plus. Delete that semicolon. Then you put in your v string. Yeah, semicolon. Yep, and then for the closed T headline. No, delete. Go. Just. Yep. Right. Go back. Right. Now go to the line that has /T head on it. About 4 lines down. That line, and that line wants to be v string equals, because we're now adding to the v string. So basically, you open the table, add the T head, close the string, do the dynamic head content, and then you start a new string, which is
where I was going with this. This also needs a v string equals.
It's got it inside the loop. You're
right. You're right.
So no, wait. You left out. You go to the closing the T head. You haven't put up. That's it. String needs.
Okay.
Another trick, another thing here, if you're thinking this is all a bit mind bending, is you can take the action code, just put it into a note with an action template, open it in a separate window, and it'll give you some syntax coloring.
By the way, guess what? Look what's happening. So this is all of the variables of this note. So we're actually generating the variables of this note. So.
Right. So go to that, and you want the display. You want
the attributes of the children.
Child. Just put child, which is no displayed attributes. After the end of displayed attributes. After the end of displayed attributes.
No, so wait a minute. Give me a chance.
Yes, yeah. After the end of displayed, just trust me. After this end, parentheses.
You're right.
Inside there, child. So you say, I want displayed attributes, but I don't want it for this note. I want it for the first child.
But the point being is, here's an assumption we're also making. Every one of the children all have the same number and the same attributes, which is something that we're in my head with. I don't need to collect the displayed attributes for every child, because I know every one of them has the same.
Correct. Now, if
that's where my head was getting stuck for a second. So
you could do it if that was if you really wanted to do that, and I don't suggest we go down that rabbit hole today, if you wanted to do that, the way you do that is you make a dictionary. So each note, you had a dictionary that said for each child, this is the list of their displayed attributes. But what you also have to do is you then have to know which child had the most attributes, because of course you've got to put in dummy, you'd have to put in dummy cells.
Okay. So now,
and also, sorry, here's the other thing is you could have, actually it wouldn't work. If all the children had different displayed attributes, you can't have a table with headers because the header will be different for each column, for each note. If you think about it.
yeah.
So if the first displayed attribute for the first one was my number, but the first attribute for the second one was my string, well, that's not going to work because the header can't show the correct title for the thing in the first column.
Okay, and we're getting close, but we're not getting the values now. So
that's fine. Okay,
that's going to be here.
Okay, right. So,
oh, do we need the eval's there?
So eval is not basically. So if you go up to notes and show the HTML rather than the preview.
Yeah, I tried that, but it's not. I'm getting a 0.
You're just getting nothing. You're just getting. Well, you're getting something.
We're getting a 0 for the first one, and then nothing for the one after that.
Okay. Okay.
So should it be action again, or?
Well, the problem.
Or do we want to do eval of it as its own line?
You could try. No, you could try replacing the eval with an action. This is the bit that I must confess I find is not at all clear. You know that there isn't. What I don't understand at the moment in the documentation, such as I've been able to write, is there is no clear indication of really of when you use eval and when you use action, or rather, there isn't a thing where you just say, I want you to give me the value. What it really needs is an operator that says, give me the value of the name of the attribute that I put in here. That's the missing bit. And so that's what you're doing with this sort of shimming with eval. Just change eval to action and see if that works. I don't think it will.
Comes back as true.
Because basically what you're getting is
you're getting a value, but you're not getting.
Oh, okay. I think I understand. Right. If you take select and cut the opening action command and put it right at the beginning of the line before vstring. Paste it back before v. No.
I know.
No, not there. Before vstring. Right. Now put the closing parentheses at the end of the line. Remove the parentheses inside. No. Remove the closing parentheses after y. Move the dollars. No, you can leave that there like that. That's. Let's see if that works. Okay. No. Press export. Always press export. See what we're getting, if anything at all.
Getting no rows.
Because basically the action is not running. The answer is I can't answer this because it needs Mark to explain how the syntax is supposed to work. We know what we want. We want $y, but we just don't know how to get the value of $y.
Yeah.
But that's basically, so that line doesn't work. But essentially what you want is you want the value of the attribute name represented by y. Actually, just a thought. From that line, just remove the action at the beginning and the parentheses at the end. And now preview the note. And I think we should. Okay. Exactly. So instead of getting $my number, we want the value of $my number, but we just
correct. So we're passing that properly. It's just Tinderbox doesn't know how to get that. So let me try.
We don't know
one thing. maybe if we do this, variable string b value equals
dollar plus y. If you said value equals literal dollar
that's what I was
plus y semicolon,
and then pass
and then put v value where in the next line, that might work.
no. Oh, I think we need eval it. We need eval this. No, that doesn't make sense. So we're getting the same thing. So if we're getting, so we're getting that we're creating, I know what it is. I know what it is because I do this in my other templates. Now if we do variable string to eval.
You've also got a missing T. No, don't. No, you got the line for value 2. It says string, not string. Okay.
All right.
You didn't look at the HTML.
I didn't look at the HTML.
I'm just sorry. I'm being rude here, but I'm just I'm just for the sake of anyone watching this.
You want to build muscle
until you know that you don't need to, always, because it quite often gives you the missing piece that the preview won't give you. It doesn't here because basically we know we're not getting what we wanted out.
So the reality is we're not getting our
value.
I want to put one more row break there just for fun, but we're not getting our value. So we need to ask Mark.
Yeah.
So how do we get?
Just give me a second.
Let me look at another template that I've got where I do get that. Oh, I think I know. Let's try this.
Yeah, the trouble is I'll put in this. I'll just paste in the sidebar the notes I have on this discuss the anti. So that the article I've just put a link to discusses the other way around. It says, well, how do I set the value of $y? But we're trying to do the opposite. We're trying to read the value of $y, and for some reason, the same ideas just don't exist.
So the one thing I just tried was this. Get me the value of the note's name who is X for the. So here's where logging could be fun. So let's just try this. So if I go in here and I say text log equals v value.
The line X v value doesn't make sense because the logics are one way round. It should be v value brackets X. If that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm getting my string. Yeah, so we're running into the same thing. We're getting we're getting the value, we're getting the yeah. So, and if this is a plus, just to show that this is working, and we'll go. Do it again. So we're getting all of the,
Yeah.
yeah, we're getting the attributes for each of the notes. My number, my set. It's like we're getting extra string there, but we're
Yeah. So and what we're butting up against is just the syntax is insufficiently clear. We know what we want. We know what we want. We just don't know how to specify it because
yeah. So we're getting the value. We're getting the names of the attributes that we want to get from each of the three notes, but we don't know how to call that note's value. That right. So v value is my string. I do think you wanted this. Just bear with me. If I did X. Oh, you're right. We wanted my string for the note that is X. And that's not working.
It might be the other thing you can try is hold on a second.
Make sure we're
Right, if you go back to your templates.
let me clear this.
If you go back to your template a second.
I just want to see this. So the note, yeah, so that's the note we want. There are the three notes. That's the note we want. There are the three values. Okay.
So if you go back, we're sort of overrunning a bit, but what you could do is you could make, if you set v value, the line you've got copy, if you copy the line you've got and paste it to be the value of v value 3 lines up.
Here?
Yep. Right. So you need to put single quotes around. No, stop. You haven't finished the line above. So off. No. Right. Go to v value. Go to back to after the equal sign from single quote there, and a single quote at the end of the line. Okay. Now on the next line, you're going to say action v value as semicolon.
Go ahead, delete this.
Right. No, you don't need the next. You're replacing the. Never mind. You don't need the next line because we're replacing it.
That's my point. I was trying to delete.
Yeah. So you just say action v value semicolon, and then you don't need the next. Oh well, that's a log. So that may.
No, just a minute.
V value. Oh right, so we want. Sorry, we wanted. If you put y there, and after the TD inside, y there, and then after the TD put a $sign.
Yeah, same problem. So we're gonna have to ask Mark.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got close.
But yeah, that's. Hopefully you can see from the code thus far. Basically, you can see how you find the bits. That there's obviously this problem about making a attribute reference on the fly. But if you were to now go into the two notes and remove my string as a displayed attribute.
Oh yeah, and we'll do that with our prototype.
And then do it again.
We get 2.
Yeah, so that bit's working. So the dynamic part is working. The only bit that's not working is making the reference, and I can't for the life of me figure out what's going on.
And if we add my string and my color, we'll now get 4.
Yep.
All right. So dynamic part works. The only issue is we don't know how to get the value. So we'll ask Mark in the backstage, and we'll have that solved sometime later this week. And we'll deal with it next week. Okay. Well, everybody, hi, Win. Didn't get to say hello to you. You popped in along the way. Hope all is well. If anybody else doesn't have any other questions, comments, I think we are good for today. Beautiful. All right, everybody. See you later.